Ayo, what's good everybody? I'm super glad that I managed to do quite a few videos this week and weekend, because next week I'm going to be super swamped with work. I'm not going to be able to really do any videos, to be honest, and I apologize for that in advance. Regardless, today's video is going to be Hanaja heal, getting an S+ for that, and getting that out of the way. So hopefully it will be helpful for you. Before that, this is just a little quick summary of the hard mode bosses and what you need to look out for with them. The very hard mode though, the dungeon is focused on magic attack and a lightning potency. So you want to bring magic lightning DPS in general. And yeah, as always, just a disclaimer, there's no real one size fits all for this. On top of that, I kind of bully my way through the actual dungeon and ignore most of the mechanics. So I try to put as much information as possible in the video to help you do it your way. Yeah, hopefully this can help newer and veteran players. And yeah, as I said, there's no one size fits all, so I gave it my best. Optimal weapons for this dungeon in general are Tifa's Crystal Gloves for AoE Magic Lightning and an X Sigil boost. Lucia's Thunderbird is pretty good, even though most enemies can't have their magic defense debuffed. The boss can, and it's lightning damage, so that's good. Centipede is great because it's AoE heals and AoE physical defense buffs, and there are a lot of powerful AoE physical attacks that the enemies do. Lucia's SSR is also pretty nice for HP lightning potency and the single target magic defense for the boss's Blazing Ray. And then other AoE magical lightning weapons like Aerith's Wizard Staff, Sephiroth's CC'd Alloy Sword, and Glenn's Shockbuster will all do pretty well. Other pretty useful weapons are Thunder Resist Down from Windslash and Seaside Collar, which also has an X Sigil boost. Barrett's Electric Cannon is also AoE magical lightning damage. The physical attack and magic attack debuffs that you get from it won't be that useful because most enemies are immune to it except for the worms. And then you can also bring Murasame and Zenoga Blade, even though it is emphasized magic damage. Other considerations are bring Rama and your best lightning materia and weapons. Bring X Sigils or X Ruins for the stream phase. Then physical or magic attack buffs are pretty nice, and a magic defense buff can be good for the boss. Healing Esuna for fatigue if you're bringing any physical DPS or physical ability users. And then physical attack decrease is good for the worms. And then AoE physical defense buff is good for a few different moments in the dungeon. A quick look at the bosses and their trance abilities. I'm flying through this because I don't want the video to be too long. And I'm in a bit of a rush, to be completely honest. I need to leave really soon and I want to get this video done. So yeah, you can pause the video and look at the bosses, the trances, and the item usage chart if you need to. Here's my little cheat sheet run planner, so you can see the map, the bosses, what trance abilities they have, where they are. The exclamation marks are the random battles, and you can see each yellow chest what items you will get, so you know which items you will have before which bosses, like whatever boss you're going to face. Hopefully you can use that to plan your own run to the best of your abilities. General tips and trance tips. These are mostly pretty obvious, but decided I'll just include them anyways, just in case. So for the mods, you want AoE magic lightning damage and AoE magic defense buff, And for the trances, the physical attack is best for a full or a hybrid DPS physical team. Other general tips for the sweepers: use items if you need and want. Ethers for your lightning DPS and your physical defense buffs. You can try to hold your ATB to see the energy focus and try to focus that one down before he gets a stomp off. Otherwise, AoE lightning magic damage and AoE physical defense buff for the stomp is pretty good. Trance, the physical defense is generally the best. It's good for the worms, the airbuster, and the boss before his Blazing Ray. And the magic defense is pretty good for the boss if you can't defeat him before Blazing Ray. The other one, not really recommended, but depends on your team. For the Airbuster, again, use our items, Thunder Cocktails, Magic Jellies, Ethers, AoE the dogs ASAP so they don't reduce your physical defense too much, and drop Ethers if you need to. You also want to AoE buff your physical defense before Big Bomber, and if you can, try to save armor for the worms in the next fight. The Lightning Potency is the best low-risk damage option, and the Lightning Potency at the cost of water resistance is the best high-risk damage option. And if you're really struggling with the worms, you want to get the water resistance because their physical moves are water-based. Speaking of the worms, items are best used before the worms, so make sure you're healed up obviously. Use your Ethers, your Thunder Cocktails, and the Magic Jellies as usual. And the Guard Jelly can really be a lifesaver here because their physical attacks are pretty powerful. Other than that, you want to buff your own magic or physical attack, whichever one you're using, before you drop your Rama to maximize its damage. You also want to bring a healing SNO for fatigue if you are bringing any physical users. And then AoE buffing your physical defense so that they don't annihilate you with their diving splash. And then you can also want to debuff the physical attack and focus DPS on the worm that uses Gather Strength. Try to finish him before his diving splash. And then finally, X Sigil Boost is pretty useful if you get to their stream phase. For their Trance, if you can burst the boss, the first one is best because the defense reduction doesn't matter. The middle one is not bad if you're running a lot of buffs on your team. And the final one is best for the boss if you're having trouble with Blazing Ray, the fire resistance can help. Speaking of the boss, don't be afraid to pop your Mega Elixir here and your Thunder Cocktails and Magic Jellies. His magic defense can actually be debuffed, so you can do that, and you can buff your own DPS, whether that's physical or magical or both. Then you want to use your Rama and Limit Breaks, obviously after your buffs and his debuffs are maxed out. An AoE physical defense buff is pretty useful for the first phase, and an AoE or single target magic defense buff is pretty good after Tear Gas Bomb. Then you want to burst him before he gets his Blazing Ray off, but if you can't, then buff the magic defense of the target to max, and bringing magic defense and fire resistance R abilities can be good if you're struggling quite a bit. You can also use my slow strat, which I've mentioned in quite a few of my previous videos already. Basically, you want to deal as little damage as possible to the boss in the start, instead focusing on buffs and debuffs. And then you want to deal as little damage as possible during his onslaught phase, because that way the boss will actually cool down before he goes into the showdown Blazing Ray phase, and he will self-debuff his magic defense. And during this window, which isn't very big, you can buff your offense, debuff his magic defense, and then burst him and use Rama. And that way you can probably finish him before Blazing Ray gets off. So hopefully all of that has been useful to you. It will probably be more useful to check these slides if you're struggling than actually checking my run. My team though, using a hybrid team with Cloud as physical DPS, with this classic physical lightning setup. I actually used all of my gems that I've saved up to get an OB6 Lavinus sword. And then yeah, he's got an X, all of my characters have X Ruin, and his sub-equipment are for Lightning Potency. So he's a pretty big boy, you can check his stats and R abilities. I also brought Aerith as a secondary DPS to cover magical damage, make it a bit easier, with her magic outfit, her wizard staff, and her sun umbrella for more R abilities. The sub-equipment is also lightning potency, so you can take a look at her stats and her R abilities. And then last but not least, I'm bringing Matt as my healer with his healing outfit. His Centipede, which is really good for AoE heals and AoE physical defense buffs. And then I also brought his Slick Beetle for the worms in case I needed it, which, spoiler, I didn't. But yeah, he's got the X Ruin and he's got healing SNL for fatigue because I'm bringing physical damage, but also didn't really need that. His sub-equipment is basically HP, heal, buff, debuff. And that is pretty much it. So let's get into the run. And like I said, as I mentioned, the run might not be very useful for you, especially if you're a newer player or you're someone that actually needs the help, because I'm pretty strong at this point and I'm more or less fully my way through the whole dungeon and avoid most of the important mechanics. So if you are looking for, the run is just there to showcase how I did it, and just so you can see sort of my run, but I don't think it'll be very useful, especially if you are a newer player or are struggling. If you are in that category, then your best bet is to check the first 10 minutes of the video where I go over the slides and stuff like that. So I grab the magic attack because I have physical DPS in my team, but the optimal would be to grab the magic attack at the cost of physical attack if you have a full magic team. You can use the random battles to try to charge up your summon gauges and limit breaks. Just keep your heals up and your defenses up. Then you have a choice between Airbuster and Sweepers. I actually just popped an Ether on Aerith because she's my AoE lightning DPS. And then for the Sweepers, as I mentioned, you can try to kind of save your ATB for a second, find out the one who's using energy focus and try to burst him down. Otherwise, just use AoE physical defense buffs or stomp. And then break the stream phase and finish the fight. I'm really cutting it close for time now, so apologies if this isn't the perfect video with all of the perfect information. Surely with everything that I've provided, it will be enough to help you get an S+ or get the best score you can. That's my hope, at least. Anyways, for this trance ability, I reckon physical defense is the best option because for me that is the most dangerous damage in the dungeon. Of course, if you're struggling with the boss and his blazing ray, then magic defense is pretty good as well. Here I pop Thunder Cocktail for Aerith and Cloud, and a Magic Jelly for Aerith since she's my only magic DPS. And as mentioned, you kind of want to try to AoE the dogs ASAP so they don't lower your physical defense too much, and then use AoE physical defense buffs before Big Bomber gets off so that you can take as little damage as possible. After that, just finish him before or after his stream phase. That's that for him, and for these trance abilities, it more or less depends on your setup and your power level. So if you are pretty strong, then take the lightning potency at the cost of water resistance. If you are in between, take the lightning potency, and if you're struggling with the worms, take the water resistance because their attacks are water-based physically. And then again, use your items before the worms, whatever you need to heal up and to increase your damage. So for me, I dropped the Magic Jelly and Thunder Cocktails again. Actually, I dropped the Thunder Cocktail on Cloud because for me, I'm going to finish him off with Brahma. And Guard Jellies are really, really good here in general. I'm not using them because I'm actually just going to blast these guys before they get their attacks off. So what I do is use Cleverness Sword to max out Cloud's physical attack, and then I use my limit breaks and summon. and then they are pretty much dead, and it's just one Thandaga from Aerith to finish them all. In general, if you're not that strong, you want to follow the slides. Raise your physical defense AoE, debuff the one that uses gather strength, debuff his physical attack, etc. This is also situational trance abilities. If you're super strong and can burst the boss, grab the magic attack, cost the physical defense. And if you're struggling with the boss, grab the fire resistance because his blazing ray is fire based. Another random battle that I kind of one-shot with Aerith. And then it's onto the boss. I was considering using a Mega Elixir here, but then decided against it because I only really need Rama on Cloud. Instead, I popped my Thunder Cocktails on my 2 Lightning DPS and my Magic Jelly on Aerith. And then I just used an Elixir for Cloud so that he can use his Rama when I need to. And then personally, I just went with kind of a similar strategy. I used my Glanervis, my secondary weapon to raise my physical attack to max, and then just did a bunch of DPS, and then summoned Rama, and I won. But for anyone else, if you want more detailed strategies, then check the slides in the first 10 minutes. My physical attack buff actually was falling off here, so I just reapplied it real quick and then summoned Rama. So yeah, there it is. A bit of a weird one considering how I bullied my way through the dungeon. But hopefully with all the other information in the video, you'll be able to get your S+ too. Thank you so much as always for watching. Hopefully this was useful for you. And sadly, I will not be seeing you next week. Have a good week and have a good weekend. See ya.